you very much for joining our very first Live Here, Love Here Small Grant Scheme webinar. As you can see, we're not in our offices, we are all in our own houses. So this is my lovely kitchen. Glad you can't see the mess. And we are doing our very first webinar, so please be patient with us, and if there are any issues or technical difficulties or anything throughout the session, please let us know through the Zoom chat, and we'll talk through these wee steps just in a moment or two. But please, hopefully you do enjoy this session, and hopefully it'll be something that you will find useful and that you can bring back to your communities just in these really difficult times that we're all facing at the moment. So by the end of this session, we hope that you will know a little bit more about the following. So Ciara is going to talk us through the Live Here, Love Here, just a little bit more about Live Here, Love Here and the campaign. She's then going to lead on to introducing the small grant scheme. I am going to speak a little bit about the small grant scheme and our approach during these difficult times that we all face due to COVID-19. I will talk you through some project ideas and case studies of projects that have taken place over the years. And then Karina will talk us through how to write that award-winning application. And then together as a team, we will carry out a bit of a question and answer session and hopefully answer any questions that you think of during this presentation. So, as you may have gauged, this is our first time using Zoom. Many of us are becoming experts at it just at the moment as we're all working remotely. Our work and our community work is now all moving online. Great to see, and it's great that there are resources out there like Zoom to help us carry out these info sessions. So as you can see, there's lots of different functions along the bottom of your screen. One is chat, one is raise your hand, and one is question and answer. Oh, I also should have mentioned that we have muted everybody's microphone just at the start of the session, just to knock out any background noise or anything. It's not that we don't want to hear from you, but it's just to reduce the possibility of background noise. So we have the chat function. Great to see that everyone has been introducing themselves along the way, and this is where you can tell us if you're facing any difficulties, if you can't hear us okay, and if you can't see us. So this is where you can just pop in any of those immediate queries or questions or difficulties, and we'll get onto it straight away. We also have the question and answer session. So this is where we would like you to pose any questions that you have relating to the grant scheme or relating to project ideas, or any questions or concerns that you would want the team to answer. So if you think of these at any stage throughout the webinar, jot them down and we will answer all of these at the end. And then at the end of the session, we will give you the chance to speak to us. We will give you the chance to ask us questions live. So if you would like to do that, if you could use the little raise your hand function, and then we will be able to turn your microphones on, and if you want your cameras on as well, and we will do that at the end of the session. We do have quite a lot to work through, so we won't be able to take questions as we're working through, but we will come to them all at the end, just at the special Q&A session. So I'm now going to pass you on to Ciara, where she is going to tell you a bit more about Live Here, Love Here.
Thanks, Nicola. So Live Here, Love Here, who are we? We are Northern Ireland's largest community and civic pride campaign, and we're a partnership made up of 10 of the 11 councils, the Northern Ireland Housing Executive and Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful. So without the support of our partners, we'd not be able to carry out our mission of empowering communities. So we're dedicated to motivating and empowering our volunteers to create a cleaner, greener, more sustainable Northern Ireland. And we do this through programmes like the Big Spring Clean, Adopt a Spot and the Small Grant Scheme. So at Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful, we're about to launch our new 25-year strategy, and 3 of the main aims of this strategy are to tackle biodiversity, recovery, climate action, and litter and pollution. So we're keen, when you're submitting your project ideas, to see any projects that address any of these 3 key themes. So we'll get down to why we're here. So we're here to talk about the small grant scheme. So it's an excellent opportunity for local communities to apply for grants from £500 to £5,000, and we're looking to see projects that will improve your local environment, promote a cleaner, greener, safer place to live. So last year in 2019, 191 groups were awarded funding, and the average amount of funding that was handed out was £1,200. So the scheme is about to open on Monday, the 6th of April, and you'll have until 12 noon on Monday, the 18th of May. So that's just over a month to get your application in. And it's very easy to apply. We've got a very user-friendly online application process. And of course, we're here as well if you have any issues. Last year, I was very lucky to travel all over Northern Ireland to visit small grants projects and survey the recipients on how the scheme affected them. So out of 112 people that we surveyed, 77% thought that one of the reasons they got involved in the first place was just a way to get involved with their wider community. And a member of the Portaferry Men's Shed said that he'd moved to Northern Ireland over 20 years ago, and taking part in the small grant scheme was an excellent way for him to meet new people. And as well as that, 91% of people felt that being part of their project had improved their mental health and their physical well-being as well. So it's really heartwarming to see the small grant scheme is helping our communities to be more healthy and to be more connected, and as well as having that positive environmental impact as well. So that's my part over, short and sweet. So I'll hand you over to Nicola. She's going to talk you through the criteria of the small grants, and it's changed slightly this year with the current COVID-19 situation.
Thanks very much, Ciara. So again, we learned a bit more about what Live Here, Love Here is, and a little bit about the small grant scheme and how it's been developing so far. So I will begin to tell you why you should apply to the small grant scheme. So over the years, the small grant scheme has developed to move online, and we have created an online application process that is easy to follow. Throughout your application journey, you will receive great support from the Live Here, Love Here staff all the way through until you're delivering your successful grant projects. And finally, the claim and evaluation process is very straightforward. We're proud of the system that we have developed, but we're always keen to hear from you and from real life participants as to how we can continue to improve the scheme for the future. So we've just got a little bit of information here on the screen about the approach that the small grant scheme will be taking in response to COVID-19. So you can have a wee moment to read through that, but this year we know things are different. We know life is different, and we know that our communities are different. We're all living in very extraordinary times, and we have 24-hour media coverage of the situation that we're in, and we're dealing with a very scary virus that, but we're dealing with it together as a community, and we're trying to combat it. So this year, the small grant scheme is taking this into light, and we want to be able to help those most affected by COVID-19 and communities that have been impacted by the results of this. So we're all living in social isolation at the moment, and we know that this can have an impact upon people's mental health, their well-being, their contact with their local community. So this is where we want to be able to help groups who are dealing with this, And we want to hear from groups like yourselves who are embedded within your communities, perhaps now at a distance and perhaps now through moving things online. But we want to hear from groups like you who would have maybe some solutions as to how to tackle this, how to deal with this approach, but to keep the normal life and the normal work of Live Here, Love Here going at this very strange time. So please, we want to hear from you and your communities, and we want to welcome applications about projects that are perhaps a little bit different, have a different spin on the criteria that Live Here, Love Here does have, and we just really want to hear from your ideas. So hopefully that's covered that little section. So now, who is the small grant scheme open to? So the scheme is open to volunteer and community groups, all schools, third level education organisations, all youth groups, sports clubs, church groups, uniformed youth, unconstituted groups. We welcome applications from groups of maybe like-minded individuals who are coming together, like, you know, creating a group for the first time, and we don't need to see that groups are constituted. So we want this to be as open to as many new people and new groups as possible. And we also welcome applications from returning applicants. So perhaps you have created phase 1 of your Live Here, Love Here project and want to develop phase 2 or phase 3 or phase 4. It's really great to see the projects build upon the legacy that they have begun to create. And we definitely welcome applications from returning applicants. And again, this year, we would like to open the grants up to a lot of those newly formed groups who are active perhaps on social media or within communities, who are maybe just volunteers or like-minded individuals coming together to tackle the social issues relating to COVID-19. So we would like to see maybe a positive legacy coming on from the great work that they're currently doing. Perhaps groups could apply for something that then they could deliver throughout the year ahead, as life should hopefully return a little bit more to normal. So what are we looking for in our applications and through our projects? This is a little bit of a kind of a collage of the things that we have seen in the past and the things that we want to see applied for in the future. So we would love projects that are inspiring communities, projects that create partnerships, projects that have a positive environmental impact, that enhance civic pride, that are innovative, collaborative, projects that go beyond your normal boundaries, projects that improve health and well-being, projects that create ownership, community growing schemes, and schemes that get people thinking about growing for the future. So that's just a little bit of a snapshot. You probably have lots of wonderful ideas yourself already. So even if you do have some ideas and you'd like to discuss them a bit further, you can jot that down in the question and answers, and we can get through to those as we move through the presentation. So with Live Here, Love Here, we like to say that proposed projects must engage volunteers and community groups to deliver practical action and must meet one or more of the Live Here, Love Here small grant scheme objectives. We understand that we're now living at the time of social distancing, so coming together as communities might be difficult, and it might take an imaginative spin on things. Please be sure that during the judging process, this will all be taken into account. We will not penalise anybody for not engaging together as a community. We will be working in line with the government guidelines and the restrictions that are in place about social gathering and social distancing. So again, put your project ideas together, and we will all work together. We're all in the same boat. We're working through this really uncertain time at the moment, so we hope that we can all come up with solutions and great project ideas that can bring a bit of joy to communities over the next year. So this slide does hold the Live Here, Love Here objectives. This might be a little bit small if you're viewing it on a phone, so I hope that it isn't too difficult to read. I will read through them, but the objectives will also be found in the guidance notes that will be live on the Live Here, Love Here website on Monday the 6th of April. So everything that you need to apply to put your application together will be on the website, and definitely all the criteria, objectives and guidance will be in the guidance pack as well. So the objectives of the small grant scheme are to contribute to the development of civic pride within a community and with a focus on environmental improvement, to encourage actions and projects that enable pollution solutions, biodiversity recovery and climate action. That's really where Ciara introduced the thought that Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful are developing their new 25-year strategy, and these are themes that we would like to see projects focus on. We want to see projects that enhance the environmental management of a local area, that improve the health and well-being of the local environment by reducing littering and dog fouling. And if these can be done through effective and innovative means, really great to see, and we'd love to see your novel approaches to the issues that everybody has to deal with. We want projects that relate to environmental improvement in coastal areas or inland waterway areas. And then also projects that help support the actions and help care for those in need at a time as a result of COVID-19. So this again rounds up the new approach that Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful are taking, and how we would like this to kind of be integrated into the small grant scheme. So we will be launching our new 25-year strategy, and again we welcome projects that address the issues of pollution solutions, climate action and biodiversity recovery. And again, with our ethos of the small grant scheme, we want projects that then would involve the wider community. And again, just another reminder about the approach that we will be taking towards the groups that are affected and those in our communities that are most affected through the impacts of COVID-19. So yes, we have integrated the new criteria, and we know that you as communities know what will help and will benefit your own communities best. So again, we want to see and hear from you, and yep, just to kind of create that element of resilience within our communities and to help make things a bit better for the future. So this is a bit of an animation about some small grant scheme project ideas. Hopefully this will give another bit of an overview of the type of things that the small grant scheme is looking for. I feel like we have covered it already, but again, I'll just go through it in case it is too small on people's phones to see. So again, this projects that are aimed at volunteers, things like community gardens, growing spaces, growing for the future. Projects that will develop partnership working. Are there other groups within your community that you can link up with? Are there schools that you could reach out to? Are there some care homes that you could like work with? And projects that recognise volunteers for the work that they do. Projects to help recruit new volunteers. You can apply for things as simple as materials and equipment for your environmental projects. Projects that will help benefit the wider community, and environmental opportunities in your area to help contribute to health and well-being. And we all know how important getting outdoors and getting involved in some community projects can be for people's mental health and well-being. So that was an overview of what we can fund, but unfortunately we can't fund everything. So this is a bit of a list of the things that we are not able to fund. So we can't fund murals and arts and crafts projects. We cannot fund insurance. We don't fund leaflets and literature. We don't fund running costs for volunteer groups, such as like your rent or your room hire or your heating costs. We can't stretch to fund salaries or staff time. We can't fund vehicle mileage. We can't really fund administration or project management fees. And we have here items of clothing. So this would be relating to maybe like your branded items of clothing, like such as t-shirts or your hats. But we can fund clothing elements that would be protective clothing that would help benefit your project, and things that you might need to have in place before your project can happen. So we can't fund we can't act as match funding for other projects, and we can't fund holiday schemes or party political activities. So hope that hasn't put you off getting an application together. That's just a little bit of a list of what we can't fund, but there are plenty of other things out there that we can fund. So there's still lots of things that that we look forward to funding within your communities. So we're going to do a bit of a talk through some case studies and some project ideas and some things that have been funded over the years using the small grant scheme. So last year we were able to fund a project from the Port Glenone Paddlers. They are a group of like river paddlers who use the river weekly, and whenever they were out on their like enjoying the river, they noticed that there was a high level of plastic pollution trapped on the riverbanks. So together they wanted to do something to tackle this. So they wanted to carry out on-water cleanups. So to enable this to begin, we were able to fund them the funding for 2 canoes and some cleanup equipment. And with that, then they were able to tackle the plastic pollutions that they found on the river, so that they found on source, and that they were able to pick that up before it then made its way down to the beaches. This is a great project in Coolock Bay Orchard, and we feel like this one really ticked the biodiversity recovery element. So the community group had recently got together and started to create a plant swap session on their Saturday mornings, and they wanted to do something a bit bigger and a bit more collective. So outside of the community space, the community hall, there was some open space where they wanted to plant a community orchard. And within this, they purchased some like native and heritage varieties of apple plants and pear trees, and they did their own training and they planted up some fruit trees. And I think this is a really good example of, you know, not just building for the here and now, and not just what they can see at this moment in time. This is something that they're putting together, they're developing as a community, and they won't see those rewards for a few years. But I think that's a really great way to show that they're planning for the future, and it's definitely something they're all going to maintain as a community and to enjoy as a community. And then this is a bit of an innovative approach to littering. So the Cornfield Project is based in a housing estate, and they were plagued by littering and plastic bottles and just bits of various litter that were being left all around the estate. So the group engaged with the young people and with the people who hang out outdoors, and they wanted to come up with some sort of solution and thought of developing these target bins. So that's simply a basketball net placed on top of a bin, and rather than the young people throwing their litter on the ground, they're now throwing them into the hoops and trying to get them into the bins. And they're finding that this is actually working, and people are using them. It's a novel approach. And in the short time that the project has been together, they have noticed that there has been a slight reduction in the littering levels. So it's a really good way to think of, you know, it's everybody's responsibility to look after their shared space. And this is a way of engaging with the young people to help them do their bit as well. So this is an idea that we have had to kind of allow you to start thinking about how we could maybe come up with project ideas to help our communities who are facing social isolation and who are all living within their own little houses and not able to have that community togetherness that a community project might bring. So we think it would be maybe a nice idea for some of the groups who've been mobilised through COVID-19 and through the response. So a lot of those Facebook groups and the groups that are active on social media, perhaps they could come together and they could act as a community group. They could perhaps apply for a small grant, and this could then allow them to purchase some growing equipment. So maybe some planters and some compost, some plants and some seeds, maybe some hand tools that could then be distributed to individuals or families within their community and within households, and then they could carry out some gardening together within their gardens or within their yards, or even just in a planter. And then this would be a way of developing a community growing scheme, but as an individual, but still together as a community. So we think that was like a nice idea to get people to start to think about how we can work individually, but yet still together as a community. And we think that this would be a great opportunity to encourage people to think about food security, about where their vegetables come from, and it would then upskill volunteers. We could link into sharing some like online growing videos. Perhaps you and your groups are already developing these, so it could be a great way to share these with a wider network, and it will also then kind of create that community network feel. This project was sort of inspired by one that received funding last year. It was with the Girl Guides group, who they purchased 50 potato planting bags, and together as their groups and within their Girl Guides sessions, they taught the kids how to plant potatoes. They all planted potatoes, and then everybody was sent home with their grow bag. So those grow bags are now growing potatoes for the future. And that was like one project that then spread out to like 50 different households, and then spread that network. And we would like to see that happening more and more. So I'm now going to pass over to Karina, who is going to talk through the online application.
Thanks, Nicola. Hi guys, so Ciara and Nicola have talked through some of the Live Here Love Here background, small grant scheme, sort of what we're looking for and some of those project ideas as well. So I'm going to just chat through the online application process and just do it step by step. There is a lot of information, so please do, as Nicola said, write any questions you've got in the answer section, and we'll get to them at the end. So first you'll want to go to our website, it's www.liveherelovehere.org. At the top of the page you'll see small grant scheme, it's highlighted there in the brighter green. In this section we'll have case studies ideas, the guidelines for you to read through, and this video will be uploaded there as well. If you want to share that on, that's where you'll go to find that as well. To begin the process, you'll click on Getting Started at the side of the page on the left hand side. If you haven't created a login before, you'll click option 1, and if you've created a login already, you just click option 2 to log in. So if you click option 1, you'll fill in your details and create a profile. What you want to do here is make sure that this email address is accessible throughout the entire year. We find that schools often, maybe it's not so much with this time of the year with the current situation, but we find that schools put in email addresses that aren't accessible during the year. So it's just something to think about. Once you've logged in, you can go to My Profile and click on Small Grant Scheme Applications. This section here on your profile is also where you can upload your cleanup events, register your results, and apply for Adopt a Spot as well. Okay, so to begin your application, you'll click New Application at the top of the page. You can also see your old applications down here, and you'll be able to continue with saved applications as well. You don't have to complete an application form all in one time, and it does save automatically as well. Yeah, so as I said, it saves automatically, and you don't have to do it in one sitting. When you complete your details as well, again, make sure that it's accessible. Okay, in this section, will need to let us know if your group is constituted. As Nicola said before, we do welcome projects from non-constituted groups, and this won't affect your application form. It just gives us a wee bit more information. Please note that it is your responsibility to ensure your group is insured to carry out all the activities. Okay, moving on to project details. In this section, tell us where your project's taking place. You can, in the project location, give us a wee bit more detail about where your project is. So maybe it's beside a building with a willow tree in the garden or a flower bed or something like that. Just give us as much detail as you can. The pointer will auto-populate to the address on your application details. So just click the red pointer and drag it to the exact location. Okay, so this next section looks daunting, but those boxes will fill up quickly. There's a max of 100 words per section, so be as specific as possible. Make sure you're answering the question and covering at least one of the objectives Nicola stated earlier. Tell us why your project's needed, tell us who's going to be involved and who's going to benefit from it. Looking particularly at what Kira said earlier about the social benefits, health and well-being, environmental benefits. If you can as well, demonstrate demand for the project from your community. So that's maybe going out and chatting to a few people, especially in this time it's going to be a bit difficult with those social distancing, but if there's maybe you can send out a survey or something as well, that would help. The guidance notes as well are there to show you exactly what we're looking for and cover a lot of what Nicola was talking about earlier, including the Live Here Love Here objectives. Okay, so this section covers permissions. It's your responsibility to hand over permissions before your project begins. With the small grant scheme, we also talk a lot about legacy, and Nicola's mentioned it a few times already. So it's basically how will your project benefit the community for future years. We don't want this just to be a one-year project and then that's it gone. It needs, how does this continue to benefit your community generation after generation? So this section gives us a clear idea of what you're looking to purchase with the grants. It's a good idea at this stage to do your homework and get a few quotes together so that you have a clear, educated estimate of how much things cost. At this stage, online telephone quotes are acceptable as well. And then you'll also let us know how much volunteer time is needed as well. So last section, terms and conditions. Make sure you read everything carefully and make sure you've ticked each of the boxes. You'll not be able to submit your application unless you've ticked each of the required boxes. If the progress bar along the bottom doesn't say 100%, it means that you've missed something and you'll not be able to submit it. So make sure you go through everything, go back up the top, make sure you've included all the details that we're asking for. Quite often we find that people forget to put in the postcode, so make sure you put that in as well. And then once you're happy with your application, you can click submit at the bottom and then you're done. Okay, so these are some top tips from an applicant from last year. So have a clear idea of what you want to achieve and the timescales. Talk to the team. We are here to run past ideas and advice for you, but do aware we do receive quite a number of applications, so just be patient. And it is because we're all working from home, as you can see, it is all the calls are going directly to Nicola. So if you can email would be better. Yeah, and they say do your homework, get costs and quotes for your items before you apply. It helps defer any nasty shocks before you get purchasing. Not all groups will receive funding, so it's good to have a backup plan just in case you don't get the full amount. And also make sure you're covering your application what you're asking for, so do you answer the question fully. And they've said as well, demonstrate a demand for the project.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Karina, for covering that. It was really, really clear description of everything that we need to see through your online application. And again, if any questions have popped up in your mind, jot them down in the Q&A, and we'll get on to that just at this next stage. Thanks for covering, you know, the contact details as well. This is an overview of like all the ways that you can contact us. If you do have any questions, please don't sit there and worry about them. Like, you know, have a think. Whenever we launch the grants on Monday, we're going to be launching a frequently asked questions document. And this is where we will then be able to put up, like, you know, questions that we regularly get asked. So if you're thinking, if you have a question, somebody might have asked that before. So just check out the Q&A document, and hopefully a solution will be there in place. But if not, and if you would like a bit more clarification, please, in the first instance, email through to smallgrants@liveherelovehere.org. They will come through to us and we can answer them as a team. Or you could then phone the mobile number that is on the screen. This will come through to me, and as you can see, like, you know, I am working here on my own in the kitchen, so I will be able to take calls, but I can only take them one at a time, and they will just be during normal working hours of 9 AM to 5 PM. And again, on the website, there will be a host of different, like, you know, different resources there for you to help you put your application together. So we will have the question and answer page. There will be the guidance documents. There will be access to the online application, and there will also be some case study documents, and there will also be a video that we put together for last year just for the launch of the grants, and much of the same information does apply, so that's a little video that you can watch as well. We will be putting this recording of this webinar up on the session, so again, it's something that you can review as well. Okay, so now we're maybe going to pass this over to you, and it's now a time that we as a team will together we will help answer any of the questions that you have had throughout. So thanks very much for listening to us all, and thanks to Karina and Kira for covering the elements that they did. And now over to you. Thank you.